So, welcome to, wow, is this episode 4?
Four already.
The Inking Out Loud podcast.
Welcome back,
I am
everybody.
Drew McCaffrey, your co-host.
I am Robert Santos, your co-host.
And we have our special guest, Jarrod Livingston, here once again.
Yo,
What's up, Jarrod?
what's up?
Can you have two co-hosts, or do you just have a host and a co-host? Does that make sense to say co-host and co-host?
I think co-hosts make sense, yeah.
Yeah? Okay. We'll go with that then.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
We've just finished the second half of David Farland's Runelords, The Sum of All Men, and I have a lot to talk about because I loved the book. I really did. It was awesome. It had a lot of fantasy tropes that I wasn't expecting to enjoy this time around. Of course, Businessman's whole his whole, I don't want to call it an arc. He definitely had a lot less to do in the second half than he did in the first half, and that was not what I expected. I expected a lot more Businessman, and I was a little more disappointed with that.
But he did was big.
It was awesome, though. It was incredible, and Farland really knows how to end a book. I want to come right out and say that. It was one of the best endings of a fantasy book that I've read in the past few years, to say the least. It was epic. It was cinematic. It was fast. There was a lot going on.
Tell me,
you guys want to.
Tell me
go
how
ahead.
badly you want to see the Battle of Longmont on the screen.
Oh, it was incredible. Absolutely. Like, I would watch that. I would pay just to watch that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, give me like a half-hour kind of compressed version of a high-budget cinematic, just, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Interpretation of that.
Yeah.
On the big screen, that would be really something to watch.
I had flashbacks of
It was
Helm's
cool.
Deep.
The dark sky, the storm. Oh my
Mushroom
God,
cloud.
the battle.
Like, oh.
Yeah. I love how the flame weavers. Sorry, did I say that right? Are they flame weavers?
Yeah, flame weavers. Yep.
Yeah, the flame weavers were literally pulling heat out of the sky and turning it dark. And I will say that it kind of surprised me to hear a lot of those descriptions, because in my own novels that I hope to publish someday, I have a magic system that kind of works. It sounds like it works a lot like the flame weavers in this one. So I'm a little concerned. I haven't read the rest, obviously, of the Runelords. I'm going to now, definitely, because if I'm making, then again, it's just a basic kind of elemental.
It is.
Magic system, right? Like, how unique can you really be with one of those? But I definitely want to check that out more.
He just takes interesting applications of a standard elemental magic system.
Right. And those are the best kinds of magic systems, I find, are magic systems that take a simple concept, but that has so many different interpretations, so many different things you could think to do with them off of a single simple idea.
And so, on the subject of magic systems, let's go to the other magic system in this, which is, of course, the endowments and dedicates and vectors and everything. And there's, again, a very interesting application of that in the second half of this book with the Serpent Ring.
Oh, the Serpent Ring was such a good idea. It's another one of those moments where I was like, how did I not think of that? Right?
Yeah.
It seems like an obvious thing.
And so early in the book, we discover that there is the possibility of using vectors, where essentially one person gives a dedicate to another person, and then that person who has given that endowment, if they receive that same endowment, they just vector that straight to the Runelord they originally gave an endowment to.
A lot of that in the first half too, didn't we?
Yeah. So, that was what Iome did with her glamour.
Right.
She refused to give her endowment directly to Raja 10, and so she gave her endowment to another woman who had previously given an endowment to Raja 10. And so her endowment ultimately ended up with Raja 10, but it wasn't a direct thing. So when that vector was killed, when the branch broke and fell on the dedicates wagon and killed everybody in it, her connection, Iome's connection to Raja 10 was broken, and she got her glamour back.
Regained her.
But so using this idea of vectors, King Orden, as a sort of last gambit, has, what was it, 22 noblemen and knights who all have previous endowments. I believe it was 22 was the final number.
Either way, it's a lot of endowments.
Yeah. So and all of them had at least one endowment of metabolism to begin with.
Yes.
And so each of them gave an endowment of metabolism to the next in a ring, so that all of them are aging at the normal rate as long as they're acting normally, but one of them can use the whole pool of whatever, like 46 endowments of
Yes.
metabolism they can draw from that. And so he uses that to fight Raja 10, who takes a different route where he basically makes like 20 of his most, badass invincibles give an endowment of metabolism to his failed assassin Salim
Yes.
al-Daoub, and intends after the battle to kill his vector there, and so he won't like age and die in a matter of 2 months or whatever. But so we get this crazy battle between one-on-one King Orden and Raja 10, where they're running like 160 miles an hour
Yeah,
and
that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool.
struggling to like figure out how to manage their inertia and wind resistance and
Lean into runs.
yeah, and King Orden succeeds in decapitating Raja 10 and discovers, well, shit, he has so many endowments of stamina that even decapitation doesn't work. He just heals up as soon as the sword passes through, and that leaves us with an interesting question here at the end. How do you kill Raja 10?
Yeah, like he is basic like that. That's of course something that you're wondering throughout the course of the entire book. But I mean, you get a literal taste of it. It's like at least you had a hope that something like that simple would work until the very end. You get it tested right there. Farland waited until the perfect time to show you. It's like, well, sorry, bud, but that's not going to work either.
Yeah.
On the subject of the serpent ring, though, is it serpent or serpent's ring?
Serpent, singular.
Okay, so the serpent ring, does that sound familiar to you at all? Harkening back to any other magic system that we've seen?
I mean,
read before?
the obvious connection there is the Great Serpent Ring that the Aes Sedai.
No, sorry, not the name of the ring. Like the effect. Pardon me, I should have made it more clear.
Like
the
a
effect of it,
circle?
having 20 people linked with one another.
Oh! You're
sharing power
going for like
evenly.
a full circle of 13
Yeah,
channelers.
for like it sounds a lot like
Wheel of
channelers linking, like those who can, of course, channel the one power in the Wheel of Time in Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series. I was like, this is a really cool, interesting application of this magic system.
Yeah.
It definitely fulfilled its promises. Leading up to that battle, you were like, this is going to be interesting. Is this going to be as epic as I hope it is? And oh yeah, Farland pays off. It was great. Again, so cinematic. I would pay to see that on the big screen. Anything else you guys want to discuss about the magic system in particular before we go on to the characters, perhaps?
Well, I think we should discuss the Battle of Longmont first here.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Let's continue the battle.
So setting the stage, King Orden has holed up in Longmont and has sort of misdirected Raja 10 into thinking that his 40,000 forcibles are in Longmont, and that there's a massive army that has been gathered across all the kingdoms of Roehaven, converging on Longmont, and so in reality, of course, Orden only has like his 2,000 knights, and and then he gets like another maybe 3,000 knights from Castle Drays and Castle Groverman, and then he has like a bunch of Knights Equitable and outlaws and peasant boys who all show up to join the fight, and he ends up with about 6,000 soldiers defending this castle, and Raja 10 shows up with a similar force, right around 6,000, but Raja 10 has his flame weavers,
the endowments and the elementals and all the fun stuff that makes this a scary, scary time.
And so, and when Raja 10 marched into Herodon at the beginning of this book, he had 5 flame weavers. His head flame weaver, his pyromancer, is dead. Was killed by.
Was that at Gaborn's hand? Or?
Yeah, Gaborn killed her in Castle Silveresta, and he loses another one here at Longmont. Raja 10 dodges a ballista shaft, and it spears this flame weaver 10 feet behind him after he gets out of the way, and it's a complete loss. Unlike the one in Castle Silveresta, which, the elemental that bursts forth in flames from the dead body, where it did damage at Castle Silveresta. It killed a bunch of Borenson's Mystarian knights before it dissipated. This one tries to attack Longmont and is totally negated by King Orden's water wards built into his shield.
Yes.
And
I
so
expected that to come in a little more important later. Like somebody was going to reclaim the shield and bring it back up at the last moment and stop an even bigger disaster somehow. But the shield really, it kind of played its
it did.
single use out there.
Yeah, and it was placed on King Orden's body at the end.
Yeah.
Obviously. So as we kind of touched on earlier, when King Orden fought Raja 10, he decapitated Raja 10. It didn't work, and Raja 10 proceeded to stomp on him literally.
Yeah. That was brutal. I wasn't expecting something quite that graphic.
Yeah, like
but I mean, it kind of sets the tone with like,
and...
okay, yeah, this is what Farland's gonna be comfortable with. Okay, so I'm gonna get comfortable with this too. Not a lot of like really graphic stuff.
Yeah, it's not gratuitous the way some grimdark is. Something that you'll find in A Song of Ice and Fire or Joe Abercrombie's books or something like that.
Not a fan of the grimdark myself.
But
I can handle
it is certainly graphic. It's violent. So eventually, Raj 10 has his flame weavers open a portal to the netherworld, and they summon flame salamanders, and they have more.
That's where they lost me a little bit.
More mundane means even of creating probably their master stroke. Really, is they have this hot air balloon that they dump explosive powders from. And then they send a wall of fire against Castle Longmont, and it ignites the powders, and it's basically a nuke. I mean, there's a mushroom cloud.
Yeah.
It blows up the gate.
Yeah.
And and at that point, the Flame Weavers have drawn all the heat out of the whole environment. The sky is black. It's hailing. It's snowing. It's freezing cold. And in that moment, as I said, it's the master stroke. It kills like 2,000 of King Orden's men, and the wall is totally unmanned, and Raja 10's army gains entry into the castle.
Like, one could very easily argue that's exactly where Rajaten won the battle, with that single moment. I mean, there was a lot of things leading up to it, a lot of different factors coming into play.
And if there's another moment that you could make an argument for where he won it, it was when he discovers the use of his voice.
Yes, by the way, I see exactly what you were talking about last week when I originally said, oh yeah, so voice in particular seems to be pretty important. And then you just kind of got this little cheeky grin on your face, and you were just like, oh yeah, voice is definitely going to be important in this book. I didn't think it meant that literally.
Yeah.
That was
I find it interesting over all this time he never discovered to do that.
I hadn't even considered that as a possible use, and when I first heard it, I was like, well, that's impossible. You get, even if he's got 10,000 endowments of voice, you get 10,000 men in a wall, they scream at a stone wall, nothing's going to happen to it. But then I realized, oh no, but if you have 10,000 voices coming out of one throat, that kind of concentrated power,
and with 10,000 endowments of brawn.
Yeah,
those muscles forcing the air out.
Yeah, and I was like, oh no, that makes okay. I see how that works. Simple physics in action. He's planned even for that with his magic system. Yeah. I love it. It's essentially so easy to see where Brandon Sanderson gets it, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Not to compare the two too much, but there's definitely some influences there that I like seeing.
Yeah, and so, but what you kind of touched on there actually ties into a big theme in this book, and that is that Raja 10 in all these years never thought about trying that. What that
is a little odd.
What that kind of points out is Raja 10, he wins the Battle of Longmont, but he loses. He's forced to flee.
He's forced to flee.
And he's forced to flee because he doesn't have complete information. He doesn't know everything.
And a lot of his dedicates did die. He's not now. He's kind of unsure about the advent. of the
he has
Earth
no
King
metabolism now.
Like that. Oh, really? I missed that.
Yeah, when the branch broke and crushed that dedicate's wagon, it makes mention that the specific dedicate that he used as his vector for all of his 5 or 6 endowments of metabolism died in that moment. And
that's effectively speed. Yes.
What was that?
That's effectively speed, like how fast you can. Like when he catches the arrow out of the air.
Yes.
And looks at it dismissively.
Now he is of unfortunate proportion.
Yeah, he has become a warrior of unfortunate proportion. So.
That he has. That he definitely has.
Yeah. But that's, as I was saying, that this is a major theme in this book. Raja 10's losses in this book are all due to lack of information. He's baited into attacking Longmont because he thinks the Forcibles are there. and they're not. He loses them. He is forced to retreat from Longmont because he believes this huge conglomeration, a legion of all of the kingdoms of Roofhaven has been amassed and is marching on Longmont, when in reality it's Gaborn and about 1,000 knights, and then 250,000 heads of cattle and sheep and goats and shepherds and women and children and
peasants. And I love that moment when Binisman tells them, or maybe he tells Gaborn to tell them to pass on that information, that idea of, hey, kick up a little more dirt while you're walking too, right? So they can see that cloud coming. I was like, oh, this might actually work. And speaking of might actually work, I want to go really quickly back to the one-on-one battle that we got between Rajatan and the king, King Orden. That was pretty epic. I admit, once I heard the idea of the Serpent Ring and I finally understood it and its implications, my first question is obviously, how do you kill Rajatan? But how do you kill King Orden? King Orden's going to be pretty damn tough. And when he runs away from the castle, away from his vectors, or, well, the ring itself, I'm thinking, okay, so how the hell is Rajatan going to take this guy down if he doesn't have access to those who are feeding him power? I didn't consider the fact that he would just break him and leave him there. Yeah. Because that is the single most effective way to fight the head of a serpent ring, isn't it? Just to break their body so they can't move and just leave them somewhere.
But leave them alive.
Yeah, leave them alive, exactly. I did love King Orden's final kind of reckoning, his final scene where he decides finally to take his own life and pass on the powers to... what's that guy's name?
Shostag, the Axeman.
Shostag, the Axeman.
Which, how badass.
He was so good, though. I don't remember reading that he was actually second in line.
He was, yes. Yeah.
But that was brilliant. I was like, oh, yes. I had forgotten about that character entirely until that moment. And I was oddly excited. I didn't expect to like that guy at all. But as soon as that moment came back, I was like, ooh, okay.
Orden's probably my favorite outside of Borenson.
King Orden?
Yeah.
Oh, why is that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I find him intriguing. He's sort of like, his last stand kind of reminded me of Ingtar.
Sure.
From Wheel of Time.
Ingtar from the Wheel of Time.
I mean, I guess he's not really
self-sacrifice.
He's not morally reckoning himself, but
redeem his soul, exactly. But King Orden did have a lot of the same motivation, I suppose. Maybe not for a reckoning of his soul, but I see exactly what you're saying. That kind of sacrificing attitude.
And I think a little bit in his realization that he wants to rescind his order to have Silver.
That was a powerful moment when he was hugging his friend and he was weeping on her shoulder, and his friend has the mind of a child, or less than that of a child, and he doesn't understand why he's being hugged and cried upon. That was really an impactful moment to read, or at least in my case to hear. I was like, I think damn.
One of the worst moments was at the end when Silveresta.
Oh God! Oh God! Let's move on to that. Oh shit, Okay, so motherfucking Borenson. Let's discuss.
Of all the lucid thoughts to have.
Right. So let's kind of like dial back for a second here and kind of regroup, and let's move on from the Battle of Longmont.
Yes,
let's talk about Borenson's character arc. So in the first half of the book, we knew that
much hope.
He was given this opportunity to marry Mirma. He's betrothed to her, and so he has a reason to live. And he's also given essentially a reason to morally die when he has this order from King Orden to kill all of Rashaten's dedicates, and that includes King Silveresta and Iome. And where we left off in part 1, Gaborn had just convinced Borenson to hold off on Iome and King Silveresta until Gaborn could talk to his father about the order. And Borenson says, okay, I'm going to let them live. And during this whole part, first part of the book, Borenson keeps telling himself, I am not death.
I am not death.
He's like, his soul, his morality, his moral compass, he can't allow himself to give in to this wanton destruction, this
specific,
utter lack of ethical action where he just has to kill, but he has to follow his order, And so he goes into the Dedicate's Keep at the beginning of the second half of this book, and he kills 2,000 people, was it? In the span of 4 hours. He kills thousands of defenseless, crippled men, women, and children. I mean, that scene in the kitchens where he kills the two girls.
Was tough.
Heartbreaking.
That was tough.
Heartbreaking. And by the end of it, he is deranged. He's insane.
As anyone would be. Of course.
He has crossed his moral event horizon, and he has lost any kind of touch on reality. And he hates himself for it. And as we see at the end of the book, instead of saying, I am not death, he embraces it and he says, I am death.
Therefore completing the exact 180 of Borenson's whole like morality. The guy was like, God, I forget exactly what I was going to say about Borenson.
We'll so consider his role.
No, keep going. It'll come to me.
Consider his role. He's a bodyguard. Yes. He's Gaborn's bodyguard. His job is to preserve life.
Yes. Oh, that's right. Now I remember what it was. It brings a really interesting question because Borenson, of course, does this in the name of protecting his homeland. As on orders from the king himself of Mystaria, this is an act of honor, but it's absolutely not.
Yeah.
At what point do you sacrifice honor for like justice? I suppose, because that was not a just command. Mercy, exactly. Like, he's like, I'm surprised he doesn't get more angry at his king, because that's the kind of thing that you feel like somebody, especially somebody who eventually becomes unhinged, as that would make anybody. But he still to the T follows his orders from King Orden, and I find that, I don't know, a little hard to believe of somebody. Especially taking his orders so literally at the very end. That snap decision that was just...
And that's based on bad information, but...
Yeah, again, based on bad information, but
he had already allowed them to live once, pending,
he's
a further...
now. The guy's out of his mind. He thinks he's just lost Mirima. He thinks she's dead. So he has nothing to live for anymore.
I had forgotten that at that point. He still thought Mirima was dead. Yeah.
Yeah, he thought Mirima was in Longmont, when in reality, of course, King Orden turned her away and told her to go wait at Breadsfore Manor, where the Forcepools were hidden.
And the big thing for him wasn't one of the big things that a dying king's last command had to be carried out no matter what. So then he learns Orden is dead, and that just adds fuel to the fire.
Yeah, and so we have this final line that he crosses where he thinks he is done. His life is over. There's nothing left to live for other than to carry out this one final duty.
Yeah, his late king's final order.
Yeah, and then he carries it out, and he kills Silveressa.
Oh, he carries it out. Oh, he definitely carries the shit out of that order.
A very graphic manner. He charges him on a force horse going 60 miles an hour and impales him on a lance.
10 feet through.
Oh my goodness, yeah, just a brutal death. And immediately after, he discovers that order was rescinded.
I was a little infuriated. Not infuriated. You can't be a little infuriated, I suppose. But I was a little irritated with the fact that Gaborn... I feel like Gaborn could have stopped him, because Gaborn still has plenty of endowments, doesn't he? He could have shouted... I suppose, once again, you could argue that, Borenson is past... And I like the way you described it earlier, the event horizon.
Yeah, his moral event
was it morality?
Horizon.
Yeah, his moral event horizon, yeah. I suppose. Yeah, I just made my decision that I'm not mad at Gaborn for not being able to stop that, because who knows what a shout from Gaborn. Gaborn? Did I just... Gaborn. My apologies.
Gaborn.
And I think it was I think there's some of watching a car wreck in slow motion,
Yes.
Yeah, oh, God, it totally was. There was that moment where it's like...
really react.
No. And then you have time to go, no, right. no, and it just happens.
Yeah,
and you're just left there going,
that's such a... The way this book ends, it ends on a hopeful note, but there's so much in the last 150 pages that is utterly heartbreaking. I mean, David Farland really knows how to get us into his characters' minds, create empathy for them, and then tear us apart.
Yeah.
Based on what they do. I mean,
it's a very well aimed shot. It's like a professional boxer punching you right in the kidney.
Done at the end of this book. You know, and so the way it ends, you know, Gaboran has killed King Silveresta, and Iome, as the new queen, has this dilemma of like, what is she gonna do? She understands like the logic behind it. You know, it was an act of war. King Silveresta was a dedicate for Raja 10, and there is very much this you know, double standard there. It's like, well, how can we judge him when everybody knows if the positions were reversed, the orders would have been the same. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, it's war. You're supposed to kill your enemy's dedicates, and she doesn't know how to approach his judgment, and she eventually decides to show some leniency in a manner. He becomes a knight equitable. His oaths to House Orden are revoked, and Iome gives him a quest to go find Dalen Hammer, the sum of all men.
Yeah, that was a really good idea. I had no idea what her supposed stance was going to be after she clearly was not going to take it as badly as I had thought she would. I will say that at the end of the book, I lost a little bit of respect for Iome. I lost a little bit of, maybe she just became a little less human, perhaps a little less visceral to me, simply because she was able to rationally deal with her father's death. And I just don't feel like, to me, I feel like, I'm sorry, but if somebody had done that to one of my parents, granted, obviously I wasn't raised royalty or anything, but it's just like, I can't imagine somebody taking their parents' death, and she didn't take it well, but without the complete irrationality that follows such a tragic loss, especially with her father's state of mind at that moment. I mean, he had the mind of less than that of a toddler. He had no idea why it was happening or what was going on. He died without remembering her name or who she was. And that, to me, was one of the single most heartbreaking things I've ever read. And the fact that she was able to not only pardon him, but, well, I guess he had a quest that was given to him as a sort of redemption. It was, I believe it's like a tradition there in
in Act Penitent.
Yeah.
But so regarding Iome's reaction to the
I feel like it wasn't visceral enough.
I see it as kind of she had already begun preparing for it emotionally from the moment his endowment was taken.
That's true.
I'm sorry, I interrupted Jarrod there. I think Jarrod had something to say.
I was just going to say, I think she was helped in part from Gaboran being at her side, and
somebody who she's only known for
helping her through this whole
2
thing
days.
And convincing her that, you know, maybe using it as an opportunity to unite the two kingdoms instead.
Yeah,
played a part.
And I like
reaction.
the fact that they managed to put that spin on it. Yeah. That you know, Bornson directly saved the life of the king that he had just slain. At one point, he directly saved that king's life, and the way they managed to put a spin on that, as if, you know, this is a sign that our nations need to unite instead of divide.
And do you think maybe that she felt she was giving him a little benefit of the doubt for letting her live earlier in the book when she had met up with her and Gaboran?
Yeah,
assuredly. Yeah.
I'm sure that had something to do with her decision. Yeah, she knows that he's not an evil man, that he was, I guess, following orders, which is overused, I suppose.
Yeah, not always an excuse. You know,
not always an excuse.
It is by no means an absolution. We're living in a world where men used the excuse of "I was following orders" when they killed, you know, Jews and Gypsies and Catholics in the Holocaust.
Exactly.
And
you can only take that argument so far.
Yeah.
But I do want to just say that I have a little less liking, I suppose, or at least a little less empathy for, or in common with Iome by the end of this book, because in the first half of the book, where is she at the end of the first half? She's lost her glamour. Mm-hmm. You know, she's had to focus on the slaughter of her family, all in a period of, well, I suppose her father's still alive, but to her, he's practically
essentially
dead.
The slaughter of her family.
And and I mean, a lot of shit happens to Iome in a period of 2 days. This entire book just takes place over the period of 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, I think it's 4 days total or 5 days total.
Yeah. If you count exactly where the narrative starts, yeah. But I don't know. I feel like by the end of the book, she was a lot less, I don't know, down on her luck. She was a little less empathetic of a character because she has her natural glamour back now. I guess her father's dead too, so that kind of sucks.
Well, so I have kind of a question, a sort of theoretical, maybe tied into lore question.
Sure.
Regarding her ability to cope with King Silveresta's death. She's got Gaborn right there, who's the Earth King, extraordinarily powerful in Earth magics. But she also has Binisman, who is, we now know, he's an Earth Warden specifically dedicated to caring for humanity.
Yes.
And he is notoriously excellent in healing magics. And he goes to her immediately after he's the first one who even interacts with her after King Silveresta is killed. And he gives her, just some herbs and things that's like, it helps her rest.
Yeah, the tea, right? It was the tea.
Yeah.
I forget what was in it. Chamomile was one of the things.
Yeah, but do you think that there was more than just maybe resting?
You know what?
There was
That's true, because she makes a
soul.
specific moment from her point of view over immediately upon even the first sip, how it was way, way more than expected, how much it calmed her nerves and how much it kind of soothed her soul in that moment. I did make a mental note of that moment saying, is there something actually up with this guy's potions or his teas?
Definitely.
You're right.
Yeah.
And now that you bring this up, he was the first person to talk to her after she witnessed the death of her father. And she did make a specific note as to how unexpectedly powerful that tea was and what he said it would do. That's a damn good point.
Didn't think of that.
Good point. You
quite
just
possible.
gave me some food thought.
Yeah.
Thought food? You know what I mean.
Food for thought.
Food for thought, yes. As the adage goes.
But so let's rewind a little bit there, because we've pretty thoroughly covered the end of the book now.
I'm sorry.
But obviously we left off just a little over halfway through, and we're leaving out a couple of big events right now. So where we left off, Gaborn and Iome and King Silveresta were fleeing into the Dunwood, chased by Raja 10 himself.
Yes, I forgot that he was still hunting them at the end of the first half.
And what they do is they lead him deep into the Dunwood. Gaborn himself is guided by the Earth Spirit to the heart of the Dunwood, to the 7 standing stones, 6 of which are no longer standing. And there they discover Binisman battling a Reaver Mage.
And isn't that the first Reaver Mage that's been seen in that land for decades?
Yes.
If not longer than that?
A long time. And this Reaver Mage manages to fell the final standing stone. So these powerful magical obelisks, essentially, that were sort of mythologized as holding up the world, all of them have fallen.
What a coincidence that it happens right now when Binisman's there and Rajatan's there and Gaborn is there. I'm sure that had nothing to do with it.
And so we have this confrontation among Gaborn and Raja-ten and Binisman, and Raja-ten once again exhorts Binisman to serve him. And Binisman says, "You want a warrior? I'll make you a warrior. I'll show you what a warrior of the earth is like." And Binisman crafts a wild.
Oh, yes. Let's talk about the wild. I mean, sorry, continue your thought, and then we'll talk about the wild after.
Yeah, so he builds this earth elemental, essentially, built of rocks and bones and soil and leaves, this green woman.
And then it just up and f***s off.
Yeah. And then it just disappears.
What the hell was that?
It gets grabbed up in a tornado and flung into the sky.
I'm a bounce.
And then it's just like, oh, shit.
I'm left there going, okay, are they, what? Okay, I'm right, but then let's just go on.
So that is as clear a Chekhov's gun as you can make as an author.
I have nothing else to add to that because you just summed it up perfectly. You could not have you could have a big neon sign with at an inn. Well, I guess they wouldn't have neon saying come in, try Chekhov's beer, and you'd be like, Chekhov's going, clearly. We've
got Chekhov's Earth Elemental lounging above the fireplace.
Chekhov's Earth Elemental. I'm going to have to come up with a good name for that one. Some sort of wordplay. I'll have it soon, eventually.
But yeah, so, and then Raja 10, in this moment, in this scene, he officially opposes the Earth. Binisman sends a sleep curse upon Raja 10's party and says, all those who would oppose the Earth, it's time to sleep, essentially. And all of them fall asleep except for Jareem, that advisor whose point of view we got in part 1. And he switches sides.
I wasn't expecting that. I thought Jareen, honestly, I didn't make it one of my predictions last week. I think I should have. Maybe I did. I don't remember. I have a terrible memory. I thought Jareen was going to try and prove himself to Raj-Aten and actually sacrifice himself for Raj-Aten. Maybe that's not what I thought. I don't know. I don't remember what my prediction was or what I thought last week. But that's absolutely not what happened.
So I do remember one of your predictions last week.
Let's go on to that.
Was about Gaborn becoming a sort of hand of the Earth King.
Yeah.
So what was your reaction at the end of the book when he was officially crowned as the Earth King?
When I got to that, well, I guess I kind of saw it coming, like chapters and chapters before that. Especially during his moment when he used his mental focus to order people to strike.
Yes.
So strike, and then suddenly you have it cutting across a few viewpoints in that same moment. Strike. All these people who are connected to him in some way that I don't know yet are suddenly getting the urge. They feel that same urge. They're connected to him, and I thought, okay, this is something a little more than just standard Earth magic. He's got something deeper going on. He's going to be the Earth King. He's definitely at that moment I knew.
People, a result of him, Gaborn, like marking them out, so to speak.
Yes. So we get that at the end of the book, for the first time, kind of explicitly stated, where he chooses people for the Earth. He doesn't consciously choose Mirama and Borenson and King Orden. But at the end, when he's riding through the villages, and he says, I choose you for the Earth. May the Earth hide you. May the Earth heal you. May the Earth protect you.
Yes.
He has come into his powers as the Earth King, and he's been tasked with saving a seed of humanity through the dark times to come. And he is choosing, with a capital C, the people he intends to save. Oh,
it's got a capital on the C? I didn't know that. See, that's something you lose when you're listening to the audio, I suppose.
Yeah, it's his chosen with a capital C. And so you get this intimate bond between Gaborn and his chosen that allows him to telepathically across great distances communicate and not only give orders or give recommendations, but to he actually incites action.
Yeah.
Like he gives a recommendation like, hey, now is a good time to strike, but it manifests in those people as a physical urge to move.
Yeah. Which one was it that reached out and punched? Was it Chinoise that reached out and struck a piece of furniture or something?
No,
like that?
she broke a round of cheese with her hand.
Was that what she did?
Yeah, she was at the kitchen table like making dinner and she had this urge and she just like slammed her fist and broke a round of cheese.
That's the moment that I realized, I'm like, okay, Gaborn, some sort of Earth Kingery is happening here. This is a little more than just a hand.
Yeah.
Now, isn't the downside of all of this that means they're also sort of marked out by fire as well?
Correct.
Which interested me. I thought maybe all the elementals were kind of united in this struggle against whatever the hell is spawning the Reavers, what the hell is behind that magic system, and what's going on there as the ultimate threat to humanity. But then Binisman, especially near the end, he makes all these references to the fact that it's Earth versus fire, or that it's specifically fire that wants to destroy them.
Yeah, but there's a little bit of a twist on it, because he also talks to Gaborn about the Union. He says, in an ideal world, all of them do act together.
Yeah.
But in their world, in their reality, they're not in union. And fire is very specifically opposed to Earth.
Then the Fire Nation attacked. Thank you. I haven't seen the Last Airbender at all. I know the.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, so straight up tangent right now. Watch Avatar: The Last Airbender. It is so good. The writing in that is amazing. Maybe we'll hold off and like down the road we'll do like a season by season review of Avatar. I am so serious. That show is incredible. It is so good.
You've intrigued me, my friend.
It is so freaking good.
Just not the movie.
Don't watch the live action M. Night Shyamalan disaster.
I'm not going to watch live action adaptations of anime ever.
Yeah, the TV show is...
Dragon Ball Evolution ruined that for me.
Oh my god.
I've said the naughty words, haven't I?
Oh, it's so bad. Anyway, rewinding here. So we are given, confirmation here that fire is in opposition to Earth, and that anybody Gaborn marks out, anybody he chooses
with a
fire will recognize that choosing and work harder to destroy them, because the Earth is about protecting and preserving.
Yeah, and then Gaborn had a real moment of realism where he goes, "Oh crap! Anybody that I specifically choose, I'm putting them more in danger."
Yeah,
and that adds a lot more of a dimension to his character that I wasn't expecting to get.
My question is, how can they ever be in unity if they're so opposed to each other in...
Well, it's about balance.
Sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't catch the first half of that.
It's harmony, Jarrod.
Oh my god.
It is.
It's ruin and preservation.
Oh no, you didn't just do that. You didn't just go there, Drew. What are you doing, man? Don't do that. Okay.
For anybody who isn't familiar with the Cosmere, I'm sorry, but
it's okay. That's just a joke for a few of us. Don't worry about it. They're cool if they get it. They're cool if they don't.
But so what Rob was getting there is a very good point. It creates a fantastic internal conflict for Gaborn going forward, where he's accepted his role as the Earth King now. He understands his goal, that he needs to preserve a remnant of humanity in the dark times to come.
I would argue that he accepted his position as the Earth King. Well, he accepted his kind of MO earlier when the Earth King actually, I don't want to say endowed him with his powers. But you're absolutely right in saying, and I agree with saying that he now understands them.
Yeah.
And the implications of that.
But
more.
Along with that comes this conflict of like, this is an awful responsibility.
Yeah. It's a burden.
Any time that I'm working on pursuing this goal that the Earth has ordained me with, I am making it harder on myself. And so Gaborn has this kind of double-edged sword where he's like, I want to choose people, but at the same time, I know I can't save all of them, and it's going to hurt me even more losing them, because I can feel their deaths. So
yes, he does feel their deaths, doesn't he? He knows his father is dead before he gets confirmation.
He does.
He knows long before.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that's another, I guess, benefit of... or another boon, I suppose.
If you want to call it a benefit.
Well, I mean, it's useful information to know that somebody who is, a big player has died.
Sure.
Instantaneously, in the moment. He doesn't have to send orders, assuming one way or the other. Mm-hmm. He knows internally, which in this case, of course, sucks when it's your own father. He knows, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Or at least, something along those lines. But I really like the whole play between the powers, and there seems to be, in starting a new topic, I guess this would be, a kind of duality with magic systems here. There's the power that I associate as the Earth power, right? And there's also the power that is that of the Runelords, which seems to me, as far as I can tell, just like a man-made thing, or not man-made. Sorry, that's the wrong term, but just it only deals with human beings. Well, I suppose it doesn't. You know what? Men can get endowments from dogs, can't they? Never mind, I take that back.
Ooh, that is a very astute observation.
Is it? Oh, look at me.
Oh, it is.
Awesome. But there's the power of the... So is there, I guess, that whatever the hell the Reavers can do in the Reaver Mage, so that might make a third magic system later for all I know.
So the Reaver Mage that we see, she's a Flame Weaver. She does the same thing that the Flame Weavers do, where she sucks the heat from the air.
I didn't realize that. I thought, I thought it was just some sort of
Yeah, she casts a spell that
ability.
like sucks the heat out of Gaborn and his horse, and when she strikes the seventh standing stone, it gets rhymed with frost.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I missed the frost detail.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, going on forward from here, I'm going to be a lot more prone to ramble, so I'm just giving you a little bit of
Yeah,
warning
no,
on
I got you. But yeah, so we're we're closing in. I think we're about 45 minutes. We have 15 minutes left. So I think we should
Give or
kind of
take.
move into some of our concluding thoughts here before we go on to the final draft. And I just want to talk about specifically Borenson and his character arc here. I want to reiterate how amazingly well done this was. It's just a crushing experience as a reader.
Yeah.
You like this guy. He's
I loved
fun,
him.
he's jovial, he's good at what he does.
Liked past tense. I want to emphasize that past tense on there, at least for me.
And like we ended the first episode where Rob was talking about like how much of a badass he is. When he takes on that invincible captain, and like Borenson is a tremendous character, and his whole life is torn apart in the back half of this book. His moral compass is gone. Any kind of moral high ground he could aspire to is gone. He's experienced horribly traumatic events. There are so many moments with him that are heartrending. I just every time I go back to when he first goes into the Dedicate's Keep, and he goes into the kitchens, and there's the mute girl. The 10-year-old girl.
He recognizes her right away, or he recognizes the second one, but he definitely recognizes one.
And he has to kill them, and he breaks her neck because he thinks this is the most humane way I can do this.
Exactly.
But it's in that moment when he kills that first girl and realizes this place is undefended. Raja 10 did this on purpose. He wanted, not necessarily Borenson specifically, but he wanted King Orden to slaughter the people of Herodon, to drive a wedge between them. And that was just the macro, That Raja 10 didn't even consider the individual toll this action would take. And Borenson, it's such a perfect image when he walks out of the Dedicate's Keep at the end of the night, covered from head to toe in blood, holding two knives, and just stands there in the rain.
Yeah.
Horribly tortured about what he just did.
Yeah.
It's a powerful moment.
It's a very powerful moment. It definitely gives him a reason. Well, not a reason. It gives him some measure of understanding, I suppose, like for what's going to happen to him later. Specifically about Borenson, I just like his whole. He does have an arc. It's not a usual or a convenient one, I suppose, but Borenson, like his whole moral compass has been compromised now by his orders. He does it in the name of honor. He does it in the name of protection, but at the same time, he's killing. It's a contradiction. It's a self-contradiction that ultimately, with those two parts of him pulling in opposite direction, it tears him apart. It really does. Yeah. That said, I still don't forgive the guy. I mean, that whole scene, I even had a moment. This is a moment I've never had before reading another book where a character was in pain, was being tortured. In this instance, Borenson, realizing at the very end that he has killed King Orden's best friend, despite the fact that those orders were rescinded, and how much it tears him apart and what he realizes that he's just done. But I was so mad at him in that moment that I personally was going, fuck yeah, you fucking feel that shit. I was like, that's right, that's what you did. It's like I wanted him to I wanted Iomi to grab him and to rub his nose in it, like, look what you did. I just hated him so much in that moment. But I can tell that on further read-throughs, obviously understanding where he's coming from, not knowing where he's going, that I might have a little more sympathy for him. But in that moment, I did not feel it at all. I hate, like right now, as it stands, Borenson, hate the guy. Like, he pissed me off with what he did there.
And certainly upcoming, he'll have a chance to redeem himself on this mission, and
he's got a lot of time, I suppose.
He's finding whether you think his success on this mission counts as redemption or not.
Yeah. Well.
But
yeah, I'm thinking it will be, but you're smiling very evilly, so I'm assuming there's some. Sir, there's some. What's what I'm looking for? Bamboozle.
I think you'll be very interested to see where his character arc goes.
I find it hard to give wrap up thoughts knowing some things that are coming.
Yeah. That's right. We're in wrap up thoughts right now. Here I am rambling.
So I want to go to Rob for wrap up thoughts and maybe predictions for the next book.
Ooh. Oh my God, this is something I hadn't even considered. Okay. Just going off on the fly here. I'm assuming that the Reavers, of course, are the ultimate threat. I think that they're a threat to the planet as a whole, or at least life on that planet as a whole, and whatever it is they represent or they're acting on the behalf of, or who, if you will. I think Raj Otten's kind of megalomaniac attitude is going to be a big problem for mankind. It's going to be a big delay in any kind of defense that they have against this impending doom.
Okay.
For all I know, though, he could have a change of heart and become a boon to the Earth King in his struggle. I ultimately assume it's going to be the Earth King versus the Reavers, and the fall of the seventh standing stone. Is that what they're called?
Yeah. Yep.
I assume that's actually a metaphor for something bigger that's just happened, or that is happening in the process of happening.
So how about some specific thoughts? Like, where do you think the next book is going?
The next book specifically?
Yeah.
It's going to deal with Raj Otten's retreat. I thought he retreated south, but it turns out he didn't, did he? He's just holding up.
He went to
holding
Fleas.
Up nearby somewhere. That's the Scottish land. At least if you listen to the audiobook, that's the Scott. Okay, good. I'm glad that you agreed on that right away.
Yep.
I thought he was going to retreat back home, and we're going to see a whole bunch of political maneuverings where he's from and how strong of a nation that is, kind of like in a mirror of the Shan-Chan in the Wheel of Time.
Oh.
I guess I'm perhaps not reading into that book enough. I've only read the first book one time. But yeah, is there anything specific you want to ask me about, like who specifically?
No, I was just wondering if you had any kind of impressions or like gut instincts of where you thought it might go.
There's going to be something important with the Runelords and their whole magic system and how it plays as like counterpart to the Earth, but perhaps with the Earth. By the way, speaking of the Earth power, just a small tangent here. Businessman, I love the fact that he has seasons, if that's what you want to call it. That was pretty cool. That was a really neat idea. I chuckled a few times, how now his hair is turned, I think it's like a bright white or it's silver, which it wasn't before. His robes are like the color of fall leaves.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really cool idea.
He went from summer into fall.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it makes me wonder, what the hell is winter?
And Gaborn asks him about winter, and he's like, "Oh,
does Gaborn? I missed that part.
We won't touch that right now."
Maybe a supervisor was talking to me at that point.
It reminds me of Gandalf the Grey. It's the Gandalf.
Yes. Again,
White.
Gandalf the Grey. There's a lot of influence there, I want to say.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that Farland, fulfills his promises because I mean, the Runelords. I can tell that this is going to be a series that changes the way I think about fantasy, if you will. It's
wow.
Just like Brandon Sanderson has, just like Robert Jordan did. What was I going to say?
That's high praise.
It is. I definitely Farland is in my top 10 without a question. Very likely in my top 5 as far
already.
After book 1, like his prose reads very well, though his descriptions read very well. As I brought up in the last episode, the way he manages to put a lot of description across a couple of paragraphs, but not make it seem like it's out of place or slow, is a rare talent. I want to study that a lot more. I think it'll help me as a writer. But yeah, Farland knows how to finish a book. That is a as close to a perfect ending as I think I've read, with a possible exception of Hero of Ages. No, definitely Hero of Ages. Sorry, that was incredible. That, of course, for those who don't know, is Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn book number 3, which concludes the first Mistborn trilogy. And we will definitely be discussing that. Those books
we'll
at
get to
length eventually. But again, speaking of Sanderson, of course, you can see especially a lot of really fast changing viewpoints near the end, and a lot of moments that are happening simultaneously with one character and another character and another character. I see what you were saying now. There was a chapter in this book that was just on the audiobook. It was like a minute and a half.
Yeah.
Maybe it was 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, there are several extraordinarily short chapters, like
but
a
the way
page
he
long.
manages to build up the big cinematic almost climax with all these crazy things happening, this spectacle happening, and then he's changing multiple viewpoints very fast as it happens, with things happening simultaneously with one another. I definitely saw a lot of potential influence to Brandon Sanderson. So if he's the kind of guy that influenced, and you said he was Brandon Sanderson's professor at one point?
Creative writing professor. Yeah,
creative writing professor.
Yeah, like so. I'm just gonna
that
show
alone
you,
is accolade. How do you pronounce that word?
So I'm just gonna show you, like, this is the book. This is a chapter.
Yep.
Like, so the chapter starts like here, middle of the page.
Okay. Oh,
one
sweet.
page.
I haven't seen the book yet.
Next chapter.
Sweet.
And then again here, 1 page, 2 pages, next chapter.
Boom, boom. Viewpoint. Boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom. It's happening quickly. It's happening simultaneously. It's very good. It's an avalanche, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, no, I was gonna bring that up. I think Brandon Sanderson, he's sort of trademarked the Sanderson avalanche, the Sanderlanche, whatever you want to call it. He's trademarked that, but from reading David Farland, I think he learned it from somewhere,
Yep. And it's always great when authors take something or someone who changed the landscape of fantasy as a whole, but they put their own spin on it. Robert Jordan, of course, did it with J.R.R. Tolkien, and I think that Brandon Sanderson is taking not as much influence, but he's definitely got those roots.
Yeah.
And it's very clear to see. So that really gives me a lot of high hopes for David Farland too, because if you had any influence on Brandon Sanderson's current works, you should be proud. You really should.
Yeah. So, Jarrod, do you have any, kind of concluding thoughts or points here?
I guess I would say I have a minor one and a major one.
Okay.
The minor one that I kind of wanted to touch on earlier but forgot is that, honestly, one of the most intriguing parts of this book for me that I think is probably not talked about that much is the relationship between the Days and
the
Runelords.
Talk about the Days.
And specifically we have with Gaborn, where he learns about these domains from the Emir's book. And so one thing I'm really intrigued with on my reread is to see how this concept of domains influences Gaborn's character moving forward. And especially given the fact, combining that with his sort of responsibility, knowing that when he marks people out, he's also kind of, when he chooses people, he's also marking them for death potentially. And how does this conflict with this sort of new theory that he's rolling with regarding the domains?
Yeah. Wait, so this was your minor
needs to
point?
Protect people. That's his job, to preserve.
This is a somewhat minor point, I guess, compared to my major point.
Okay, well, I'm ready for this now.
So my major point...
Let's hear it. Bring it on, dude.
That I certainly think is much more discussed is just the magic system as a whole with endowments.
Okay.
Like, I can't remember off the top of my head a magic system that affects more aspects of a novel than this one. It's the morality of the system. It affects the economy.
Yep.
It affects the characters. It's just...
Yeah, it's brilliant.
It's beyond superficial,
It's so well thought out and so thoroughly realized.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where every single aspect of every culture is impacted by this, and it's impacted on the page. It's not something like there are plenty of books out there where fans can read it and be like, oh wow, look at all of these implications of this, where like imagine what this magic might do living in a city here, or like in this kind of a culture there, whatever. No, we see that on the page in this. We see what it does to economies. We see how people, you know, with Murima, she comes from a struggling family, and they make these heavy decisions in the hope of economic advantage. And we see, you know, the extreme cost that it takes to maintain a dedicate's keep, and how they have to like put dedicates to work within it in order to keep it economically viable, financially viable, where you have the more you know, mobile, more facile dedicates, maybe they're mutes or they're deaf or they're blind, and they can still use their hands to make bread, or you know, clear out the chamber pots and things like that. And so you have these people that, and they're not paying them, you know, their pay is their room and board in the dedicate's keep. And you know, and then you have peasants, like we get so many stories about how pragmatic King Orden is, and how
I heard the word pragmatic so many times.
In his youth, he would kind of strong-arm peasants into selling their endowments, where he's like, oh yeah, I'll give you a couple of gold coins to keep your family afloat, but you got to give me your stamina. You know.
And I love the kind of near the end when Gaborn, like all those people are offering up to give him endowments at the end, and he denies them and says, no, I'll pay you instead to like help rebuild the castle. And, you know, start
brownie
life
points
for yourself.
And he says the only people he will take endowments from are those who understand that the giving of their endowment is an act of war.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I want to go back to Drew's earlier point, that Farland has what I think is a rare understanding of just societal implications of a magic system. And exactly what Drew was saying was something that I had made a particular note of, was that something that, like, what happened with Mirima's family, and the fact that they would choose one person to give all of their endowments to, to live as wretches, for lack of a better word, for the rest of their lives, but in the hope that, you know, their one sibling or their one parent can take care of them. That's something that I think takes a lot of thought. That, like, Farland has this ability to place an object and see everything around it and how it fits. And that, I think, alone is why he's in my top 5 after reading a single book. That was an awesome recommendation on your part, my man.
Oh yeah, I'm glad. I thought you would enjoy it. I didn't imagine you would enjoy it this much.
Right now,
so.
Anyway, any final thoughts?
I would just say, since it's been so long since I've read this, I'm quite excited to move on to the next ones.
Oh yeah.
I only remember some, you know, big stuff. So
I have Audible credits, and I've just turned on or at least opened my phone. I'm gonna get book number 2. I'm gonna download it right now.
Brotherhood of the Wolf. Yes.
Brotherhood of the Wolf, David Farland.
Yeah.
In store.
Yeah, so I think that's more or less a wrap for Runelords, the Sum of All Men.
Yep.
Shall we move on to the final draft here?
We shall move on to the final draft.
Jarrod, kick us off.
Yep, so sticking with the theme of Jarrod and the kind of beers I like. This one is a coffee milk stout from Stone Brewing Company.
Oh, Stone is an excellent brewery.
Is that a local brewery?
It
one
is
that I
San
don't
Diego,
have
California.
access to until I come visit. Okay, well, yeah, I guess. Do they ship?
So yeah, it's just a coffee-laced stout.
Okay, a stout. So it's a dark beer. It's,
yes,
I'm still learning these things. For those who don't know or haven't heard our previous episodes, Stone. I know nothing about beer. I like beer on occasion. I just, you know, I'm more of a whiskey guy, a Scotch guy.
Well, when you ever come out to visit,
I'm absolutely
Colorado,
open to have my mind blown when I do make my way down there to Colorado.
Oh yes. So Rob, how about you?
I have been partaking in a beer that originally I had gone to the liquor store today. Here in Ontario, we have what's called the LCBO, and they have liquor and beer in that store. And I was looking for a specific Belgian beer It was an import that was recommended to me by a Belgian guy that I used to work with by the name of Mark. It's called Duvel.
Oh, Duvel? Yeah.
Yeah, and it comes in a very small bottle.
Yep.
I think it's like 8% or maybe 11% beer. It's pretty strong. And little bottle, like 4 packs. And I was looking for that, but I guess they didn't have it. So I spotted this one sitting on the shelf there, and I just had to go for it. This here is a Canadian treasure. This is Freedom 35. It is Trailer Park Boys.
Oh!
And their beer brand.
Trailer Park Boys!
Yeah, absolutely. I was not expecting. I bought it and I was like, I imagined this moment where I was gonna have to talk about it, and I was getting ready to say, it's piss. You know, it's just crap. It's cheap. It is pretty cheap, but holy shit! Over the entire course of this episode, I've had 2 of these tall boys here. I was trying not to like gasp over how good it tastes.
Wow!
It was awesome. I was not expecting it to be that like fruity but delightful. I'm gonna pour a little bit more.
Very
here.
Nice.
So it's a very good beer.
I do have to give you a little bit of a crap though, because I see there you're drinking it out of a Boston Bruins glass.
Oh shit! I was hoping you weren't gonna notice that. That's my stepdad's. It's the right size and it was clean. I was like, got it.
Oh, terrible. Terrible.
Not that I have anything against the Bruins. I do like the Bruins.
I do
and
have
I also
something
like
against the
the
Bruins.
Canadian, which is also kind of a controversial thing to say. I understand that. If you're Canadian or if you follow hockey.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I tried to keep to my thematic beers here.
Yeah.
It's not as perfect this time around as it was the last couple of weeks with Wake Up Dead for Elantris or Ghosts in the Forest for the first half of Runelords. But it was appropriate for today in Fort Collins at least, and I think the Battle of Longmont a bit. This beer is from Copper Kettle Brewing Company, which is from Denver, Colorado.
Copper Kettle.
It is a coconut snowed in.
Oh, I love coconut.
It is an oatmeal stout aged in bourbon barrels.
Oatmeal stout.
With coconut,
That's a thing?
Coconut and chocolate, and you know it's snowing here in Fort Collins, so I thought that was fine. But also remember, like at the Battle of Longmont, when we were talking about the Flame Weavers, how they suck the heat out of the sky, and they make it turn from a sunny day into a snow and hailstorm.
Yeah,
you know, so that was my tie-in for this time around. And let me just tell you, this beer is phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know, if you like dark beers, if you like
I like
thick,
them on occasion,
malty, boozy stouts, and you ever see this beer on the shelves or on tap at your local, you know, craft beer bar or whatever, buy it. This beer is excellent. It is smooth. It is rich. I made a joke, you know, when we were chatting before we started recording here that it's the color of ink. I mean, this is thick and black and delicious.
Which is appropriate for this podcast.
So, yeah, that's my inclusion for the final draft here, and I think that brings us to the end. So, you know, we're one book into the Runelords here. We're gonna be back next week with another episode kicking off Brotherhood of the Wolf, which is the second book of the Runelords. Jarrod will be back once again. He'll be here throughout the whole Runelords series, so you know, get used to it.
Get used to me, guys.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Yeah, as always. Yeah, thanks for listening. We appreciate it, and always a good talk. So.
Absolutely.
See you guys.
Peace.